Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the classic wrestling series. Sorry it's taken me until today to do that, I'm very sorry. Been a bit busy and everything, so here we are ladies and gentlemen. So, Hell in a Cell Sunday, MMA submission yesterday. I think we're going to go for Hell in a Cell this week, and then submission next week. But what Hell in a Cell we're going to watch? I have an idea. Why don't we watch the only Hell in a Cell match that had 7 participants, including the ref? Why don't we watch the December 10th, 2000 pay-per-view known as Armageddon, with the infamous Armageddon Hell in a Cell match. Let's do this. So our opening package is saying that the end is here. It is the 6 men inside the Devil's Playground, known as the Hell in a Cell. That is going to be our main event, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be talking about what's been going, the build-up and everything at the main event. But, ladies and gentlemen, we have kicked things off with a 6-person intergender tag team elimination match with the Radicals, Dean Malenko, Perry Saturn, and Eddie Guerrero. Chris Benoit is on the card. He will be later on, versus Team Extreme, or the Hardys and Lita, before they were known as Team Extreme. This was a very fun matchup. Team Extreme dominated at the beginning, with Jeff Hardy getting the pin on Eddie Guerrero with a Swanton Bomb. It was very nice. Then Perry Saturn eliminated Jeff Hardy with the Death Valley Driver. That was a nice move. I do enjoy Perry Saturn doing that move. Twist of Fate from Matt Hardy eliminates Perry Saturn. Then Mr. Dean Malenko pushes Matt into Lita, which means Lita gets out of the ring, rolls up Matt to make it just Malenko and Lita. The story is Lita and Dean Malenko went on a date last week, and the Hardys basically beat down Malenko at that point. And yeah, this was a very interesting matchup. It was different for obvious reasons, but at the same time, it was very interesting. We had that interest, again, we had the dynamic of the 6-person intergender matchup. Dean Malenko and the Radicals would win after Dean Malenko puts Lita in the Texas Cloverleaf. It was a good matchup. It was actually a really fun way to open up a show, I have to admit, guys. So, yeah, looking forward to the rest of the card. I believe our next matchup is Hardcore Holly versus William Regal for the European Championship. Let's watch this. So, we just had Hardcore Holly and Regal in the European Championship match in the main event. It was okay. I mean, it wasn't anything special. It was just Hardcore Holly versus Regal. It was a quick 5-minute matchup. Both men got most of their stuff off. Regal did hit a superplex on Holly for a 2 count and takes control of the match until late into it when Raven runs out, DDTs Hardcore Holly, allowing Regal to get the easy pinfall victory. It was a fun, quick 5-minute matchup, and yeah, it was entertaining as well. So, next up, it is Val Venus from Right to Censor. I hate that fucking theme song. Taking on China. So, let's watch this. So, we just had China versus Val Venus in our third matchup. Basically, this would carry on the feud with China and Ivory. So then China would be injured at this point after this matchup to let her basically lesser power herself, or whatever they termed the storyline, because she broke her neck after the Rumble. So then she didn't have enough power to face the men, so that's how they were able to enter her into the women's division to win the women's championship at WrestleMania 17. It was a weird storyline. Austin took like a year out with an injury to his neck. China was back in like 7 weeks before Mania. It was like, what the fuck? Okay, but fair enough. Yeah, this was just a quick matchup between these two. Val Venus gets the win after a fisherman suplex. And, Ivory just causing so much damn distractions. It was annoying, but hey ho, Right to Censor were just assholes at this point. But again, it was just entertainment. After the actual match itself, China would try to get her hands on Ivory, but then Val Venus would powerbomb China after the match. So again, it was just one of these simple matchups where it was just a pop the crowd, as the old saying goes. Next up, we have a last man standing match between Kane and Chris Jericho, and I'm going to go and quickly change my shirt. I'll be back in just a moment. That's better, guys. So, last man standing match, Kane versus Chris Jericho. This would start over a cup of coffee. No joke. But at the end of it, yeah. But it's one of those things where it's like you expect it to be a bit more hardcore-y. And it was hardcore to a degree, but there wasn't a lot of, there was a chair shots every now and again, but it wasn't as extreme as we've seen some last man standing matches in the future and in the past, actually, to be fair. So, with that all being said, it was okay. I mean, Jericho and, it was the old David versus Goliath matchup, and it did work. Jericho would win after knocking over a ton of barrels. There were stacked barrels because obviously there's a load of cars which will play into the main event as well coming up. So he just pushes some barrels over and gets the 10 count and the victory that way, which I think, to be fair, was actually a good way to actually end the match, because Kane was just getting back up. So what do? You just push something very heavy on his ass. End the story. So yeah, it was entertaining. We go backstage literally like 2 seconds into the match. They both beat up Midian, which I feel so sorry for. But again, they would just hit a move, wait around. Kane thinks he gets the match win, the one after he gets chokeslams Jericho, gets up. Jericho thinks he's won it after hitting the top rope moonsault. He doesn't get that. Which is the Lion Soul, to be fair, guys, as we all know that. But yeah, it was just an interesting matchup, and yeah, it was, a bit of a breather after the last match. So, ladies and gentlemen, our next match is for the WWF Tag Team Championship. The Right to Censor taking on Edge and Christian, the Dudley Boys, and Road Dogg and K Quick, who is Ron the Truth Killings in Impact Wrestling, ladies and gentlemen, or TNA, known as R-Truth now. So, let's watch this one. So, we just had the WWF Tag Team Championship match, and oh my god, this was a clusterfuck. 8 guys in the same match doesn't really work in my opinion, ladies and gentlemen, but it was a fun, entertaining match, I thought. We've got a load of feuds culminating, or starting to bubble at this point, because again, WrestleMania 17 is the ladder match, I want to say, between Dudley's, Edge and Christian, and the Hardys, if I recall, for the tag team titles. But yeah, this was just this was just 8 guys getting on the pay-per-view in a everybody in the pool match. The Dudleys look like they're going to win the match, obviously. Then Edge spears Bubba Ray, then Christian hits nails the Tomasani, also known as the Kill Switch. And yeah, this was a good match, and they win the belts. They would lose them at the Royal Rumble, but then regain them at Mania 17 for you guys, for completionist's sake. So, next up, ladies and gentlemen, it's the Intercontinental Championship, as Billy Gunn defends the belt against the 4th Radical member, Chris Benoit. Let's watch this. So, ladies and gentlemen, we've just had the Intercontinental Championship match as Billy Gunn took on and lost to Chris Benoit. This was actually a really fun matchup. Chris Benoit is a good wrestler, and Billy Gunn Billy Gunn actually can keep up with Benoit, which is really entertaining. Lot of just submission moves, famous to try and get the win. That doesn't. Benoit then catches Billy Gunn in the crippler crossface. He manages to get to the ropes. But this was just a good way to have a fun, clean, really fun, technical style matchup, and obviously Benoit gets the win with the crossface, and he is the new Intercontinental Champion, and he would defend the belt against, oh god, who would he defend the belt against? He would defend the belt against Jericho in a ladder match at the Rumble. I believe he was also on the card at No Way Out. It was a fatal 4-way at No Way Out 2000, and then at WrestleMania, I don't remember who he faced at WrestleMania. I can't remember. I believe it was either Kane or Regal. I'm not entirely sure. I can't remember who he faced. So next, ladies and gentlemen, I will be talking about the promos with Angle, Austin, Rikishi, Triple H, Rock, and Austin, Rock, Undertaker, Rikishi, Angle, Hunter in the main event, just so then you guys know what is going on with that. So, ladies and gentlemen, like I say, our next matchup is for the WWF Women's Championship as the champion Ivory takes on Trish Stratus and Molly Holly. Let's watch this. So, we just had the triple threat match for the Women's Championship, and this was okay. It wasn't as bad as a lot of people think it might be. Trish wasn't the competitor that she would be in a few years' time. Ivory was good, and Molly Molly is a couple of years into the business, and she was good in this match as well. It was just the shortness of it, because obviously we would have the return of the Acolytes, the APA coming back. Nothing really of note really in the match. Molly starts off by attacking Trish, and then getting monkey flipped into a clothesline, to be fair, by Ivory. Double suplex from Ivory and Trish to Molly. Molly hits a crossbody for a near fall on Trish after wasting some time to drag Ivory out of position to break up the pinfall. And then pretty much Test and Albert interferes in the match. Ivory picks up the win afterwards, and Crash comes out, and then the Acolytes come out and beat up TNA. So pretty much that's it. Ivory retains and would go on to face China at the Royal Rumble. Then I believe it would be, I don't think she was actually on the card for No Way Out, I could be wrong on that one, or I think she faced Lita, I can't remember. Then she would go on to lose the belt at WrestleMania 17 to China. Whenever I get around to watching WrestleMania 17, I will talk about the storyline with Right to Censor then. But ladies and gentlemen, it's time for our main event, and I'm going to try and get through the history of this very, very quickly. So, Armageddon Hell in a Cell, 6 men: Rock, Austin, Angle, Rikishi, Triple H, and The Undertaker. So, going into this match, we had 3 separate feuds going into it. We had The Rock and Rikishi, for obvious reasons. We had Triple H and Austin, because Rikishi ran over Austin with a car at last year's Survivor Series in 1999. Rikishi would turn out to be the person who drove it, but due to a unsuccessful heel turn, they turned out to be Triple H, the manipulator of Rikishi. So that brings them in, and if I recall, at Survivor Series 2000, Undertaker faced off against Angle for the title. They pulled the old switcheroo with Eric Angle for Angle to retain the title going into this match. Foley just goes, fuck it, all 6 men, Hell in a Cell, Armageddon, boom, sorted. Vince was pissed by this and would go to Rock, Austin, and Undertaker to say, you don't need to do this match, and would get beaten up and say, yes, actually, we want to be in this match. So, during the show, Vince would turn up and be like, yep, and the Stooges would be like, the cells in up top, and we would walk past the flatbed truck that the Undertaker would throw Rikishi off. A bit of a spoiler for you guys, during the match. Then we would have promos from all 6 competitors. First off, we had Angle talking about the match, basically just being like, I'm going to retain my belt whether people like it or not. Then I believe we had Triple H, we had Stephanie and Vince talking about the match and how she doesn't want Hunter to be in the match, and she doesn't want this match taking place, full stop. Then we had a really nice bit with The Undertaker talking about his feud with Shawn Michaels in the first Hell in a Cell match, and then Mankind at King of the Ring, talking about how he's a dangerous person in the match and it changes him because of that. Really cool. Then we had Triple H talking about how he wants to beat the belt even though he's been coughing up blood. He's been battered after the Hell in a Cell last year, and 3 weeks ago he was coughing up blood, and he's been doing that for the past 3 weeks. He doesn't care. He wants to be in the match. He wants to win the title, and he will win the belt with his dying breath. Then we had Rikishi talking about how he's just wanting to beat everybody and win the belt for obvious reasons, to bring it home to the Island Boys. And second to last, we have Mr. Stone Cold Steve Austin saying he's ready to win the belt no matter what happens. And we have Rock talking about how everybody, I believe the actual "I did it for the Rock, I did it for the people, I did it, I shut your your phone wearing fatty" was actually on Raw, not on Armageddon. And the Rock basically just talks about how he's going to beat everybody. That's pretty much all it is. So with that very brief history of the match going into the match, ladies and gentlemen, the reason why we're here: Hell in a Cell. 6 men enter. 1 man is leaving as champion. Let's watch it. So, we've just had our main event, the Armageddon Hell in a Cell match, and there's a reason why there's only been 1 Armageddon Hell in a Cell match. This was chaotic. Obviously, at the beginning of the match, everybody goes to their feud. So Austin beats up Triple H, Rock beats up Rikishi, Angle beats up Undertaker. It was just a mess. I mean, 5 out of the 6 guys bled. Rikishi didn't bleed. A lot of people think it was actually at the Rumble where Austin and Rock would face off for the first time. It was actually here that they would face off, and the crowd would cheer a little bit, but it would be the Rumble that most people would remember. Also, we have the iconic image of Undertaker pushing Rikishi off the cell, not choke slamming him like what most people think he did. He just pushed him off the cell. Vince comes out to basically try and rip down the cell mid-match. Mick Foley comes out to basically just, stops that. And then after the match, Angle manages to just get a hand on the Rock to count for the pin. After Austin hits Rock with a stunner, tries to hit Triple H with a stunner, turns it into a neck breaker. Then Angle just puts 1 hand on the Rock for the count. Obviously, these people would go off into different feuds. Undertaker would go on with, I believe it was Triple H at Mania. Austin versus Rock would happen at Mania for the title. Angle would go on to face Kane, I believe. And Rikishi, I do not believe, was actually at Mania 17. I don't believe so. But this was just a chaotic match. This was a mental match. It was, don't get me wrong, it was an amazing match, but at the same time, it was just mental. It was just hard to see. It was just nuts. I believe Rikishi would be legitimately injured, so that's why they would play off the angle with Mick Foley saying that if anybody did get hurt, he would get fired. That did not come to fruition until a few weeks further down the line, where he would resign and he would be a part of the McMahon versus McMahon match. Shane McMahon versus Vince McMahon at Mania 17. Again, a lot of things happened at Mania 17, which I will go into when I do review WrestleMania 17 for this series, guys. But with that all being said, what did I think of the show? It was a good show. I mean, it is one of the more memorable Hell in a Cell matches for obvious reasons. Angle walking in as champion, coming out as champion. The spot with Kane, with Undertaker and Rikishi is iconic. And the finish is just a cheap way to basically get heel heat on Angle before before the Royal Rumble and No Way Out, the Road to WrestleMania. Best match of the night probably would have to be, my personal favorite would have to be Jericho versus Kane. Least favorite, I probably would have to say Regal versus Holly. Even though it was a good match, it was still just a bit too... It went a bit too short, and there was interference by Raven, which I just don't like. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for watching episode 92 of the Classic Wrestling series. I will be back, hopefully, next Friday with episode 93. And like I say, we're going to be watching a submission match. Why stop at 1? Thank you very much for watching, guys, and I will see you next week with Classic Wrestling series. But this is not over yet, ladies and gentlemen. We have got Hell in a Cell tomorrow night. I will see you bright and early for Hell in a Cell predictions and review. TTFN.